rural spaces, rolling hills, and small towns with one street. These places, particularly the Appalachian region of the United States, experience hardship as well. In fact, poverty rates in this area range from 6.5% to 41%. But why is that? What experiences or harm do these people have that make their rates of poverty large relative to other areas? Folks in the Appalachian area experience great limitations due to the restrictive coal mining industry controlled by external corporations, particularly physical and financial harms. These ultimately manifest through harms to bodily health, sense, imagination and thought, and affiliation, all of which we will define in a few minutes. In order to break down what hardships people are facing, we ought to clarify who we're talking about: people living in Appalachia. According to the Appalachian Regional Commission, 25.7 million people live in this region that you see here. To put it in perspective, New York City has roughly 8.4 million people. When outsiders think of the area, they think of poor white rednecks. However, Appalachia, like other parts of America, is racially diverse. While 81.4% of the population is white, 18.6% is a combination of Black, Latino, or other. However, this does not account for those who are mixed or Melanesian, those who are of mixed European, African, and Native American descent. The unfortunate stereotype of the poor white redneck blinds outsiders to a huge portion of the population, and thus forcing unattainable expectations of Appalachian. Why would people face financial harm when they have one of the most wealthy industries in their backyard? Ever since 1949, coal production and consumption has been on a steep rise, with a small downturn in 2009. At the same time, coal mining employment numbers have roughly remained the same from 2000 to 2011, with a sharp drop-off in 2011. The number of people being let go from coal plants is connected to the automation of coal mining, similar to other low-skilled, high-risk jobs. These once miners are left with limited options because of their low education levels and specialized skill set in the labor force. In addition, the fruitful, abundant land Appalachia farmers once had is now barren because of all the toxins from the mountaintop removal. The once mountains are now closer to plains, and these farming families have the so-called choice to either be lowballed and exploited by the coal companies for their land, or to move from the place that had been in their lineage for generations with nowhere else to turn. In addition to these explicit financial harms, coal mining also has more subtle impacts. Given a lack of urban development, some areas face isolation, with the Appalachian region having less miles of highways and less internet access than the US overall. Also, even though coal mining is on the decline, in West Virginia, for example, much of the state's private land is still owned by large, mainly absentee corporations. The list of top owners, once dominated by energy, landholding, and paper companies, now includes major timber management concerns. Thus, people in Appalachia are limited by the state of land. The second and perhaps more striking problem is the physical impact that living in a place like this can have. While moving through the day, the average person does not think about the pollutants that may be around them, whether it be in the air, in the soil, or in the water. Folks in Appalachia who live in proximity to coal, however, do have to think about these things. Although down from the 1,500 coal-producing mines in 2008, there are still 551 mines in Appalachia. Furthermore, the damage to the environment and people's health has already been done, and there's not really anything that can be done to reverse this damage after decades of carnage. It can be tricky to imagine what pollution looks like without clear examples. One pollutant is called fly ash, and it is a result of the combustion of coal. Upon being released into the air, humans inhale it, resulting in higher morbidity and mortality from respiratory, cardiovascular, and cerebrovascular diseases and lung cancer. The ash can also come into contact with the ground and sources of water, causing it to be infused with toxins. The health problems exist earlier in the process too. The folks who actually mine the cone are exposed even more further. For instance, cancer mortality rates are 10% higher, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases mortality rates are 27% higher, injury mortality rates are 33% higher, stroke mortality rates are 14% higher, diabetes mortality rate is 11% higher, and heart disease mortality rates are 17% higher in Appalachia than anywhere else in the country. Unfortunately, the families that have lived in Appalachia for generations have no say in what is being done to the area. Outside corporations are coming in to mine and profit off Appalachia's resources, with little concern for those that live there. Because these mining companies are largely removed from Appalachia via headquarters hundreds of miles away, they have no direct line of contact to recognize the physical and financial harms occurring. So in what way does this cause harm? Ultimately, if we consider Nussbaum's capabilities again, two mainly come to mind here: life and bodily health. People's lives are ending quicker and more unnaturally in Appalachia than anywhere else in this country, and they do not have access to the help they need, or their illnesses have progressed past the point of no return. Regarding Nussbaum's capabilities, senses, thoughts, imagination, affiliation, and control over one's environment are greatly restricted in these areas. Many of those who live in Appalachia do not have the educational background to choose their profession, backing them into a corner when coal mining and other similar fields are becoming increasingly automated. In addition, these people's self-respect is at risk because of not being able to provide the basics for their family. Furthermore, there is a stigma in the United States associated with unemployment of laziness, and these people are held down by it. Finally, as outlined earlier, these people are left with spurious choice, masking their entrapment to the single-path life that is being ripped away from them. Through understanding these harms, we can lift up the voices and experiences of Appalachians and consider solutions together.